Hello Summoners and welcome back to another episode of OP Pick or Ban. This video is going to go over our speculated strongest picks for patch 9.20, so stay tuned to find out who you need to pick or ban out of every game this patch. With this information, you should be able to get that edge you'll need over your opponents on the Rift. Like always, we've got a ton of picks to cover because of some big changes coming. Make sure to leave any feedback, suggestions, or comments down below. For our question of the day, which champion do you love playing and why? Personally, mine is Kai'Sa because of how fun she is to play, and let's be real, she's got a pretty great line of skins. But before we get started, make sure you check out ProGuides.com using the description link below if you want to see huge improvements to your rank. We upload video guides similar to this one on our website every single day, and as of now, we're currently uploading a Challenger gameplay analysis guide for every single champion. So if you want to get better at your champion, then click that link below. Also, as you guys all know, we have an exclusive coaching feature called Play with a Pro. This will help you guys out tremendously. If you guys are in a rut, then make sure to check it out. All right, now with that being said, let's jump right into the video. Kicking off the top lane is going to be Garen, who's receiving a lot of changes this patch. The first thing we have to go over is the fact that his E will now stack Conqueror. Previously, it honestly felt like Garen was gate-kept from his full potential because he couldn't optimally take advantage of the Keystone. Garen players know about the struggle. You're playing a bruiser who can't use the bruiser Keystone, so you end up losing all-ins versus basically any champion who can. The dark days are over now, and Garen mains can now rise up and spin to their heart's desires. He's received a bunch of various changes, but you can learn about these as well as other changes we'll mention in our 9.20 tier list video. Garen's already seeing a lot of success at the moment, and he's only gotten stronger. You'll want to pick him because of his ability to dominate lane, and also because of how great of a nuisance he can be in the mid game. He's extremely tanky and deals an insane amount of damage as long as he can reach his main targets. The hardest part about playing Garen is setting up your flanks and also executing them. If you are playing Garen, make sure to use pink wards to help clear a pathway for you to surprise your opponents, or throw it back and play Garen as the master of the brush, waiting for your prey to come near. Next up, we have Malphite. We've been giving this guy a lot of attention recently, but it doesn't go unmerited. He actually topped a 52% win rate last patch. The tank meta isn't a meme anymore, I guess. I mean, honestly, if you think about Malphite's kit, it kind of makes sense that he'd have a high win rate. He's got great engage, he's tanky, and he deals a decent amount of damage. Now that he's actually in a good spot and able to hold his own in the laning phase, Malphite can consistently hit the mid and late game where he excels. Essentially, he's able to hard engage very reliably and deals excellent damage while being extremely tanky. He hits all the bases, he has good wave clear, is tanky, provides utility, and does some good damage. The only issue is that he still does struggle versus magic damage opponents. However, he is strong enough that you can still consider him a scaling champion. Not in the usual sense, but Malphite is definitely one of the strongest late game characters because of how much he brings to the table, especially in team fights. Next up, we have Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is going around and doing Heimerdinger things in the top lane right now. Last patch, he held the highest win rate in the top lane. Don't misinterpret it though, this doesn't mean he's the most OP top laner, but it definitely means he earns a spot as one of the best. His play rate is pretty low, so a variety of factors play into this. A lot of people don't know how to effectively beat him, no one has a counter pick prepared, and most of the people playing him are likely experienced on him. Specifically with Heimer, you'll want to pick him up for some short-term gains because his win rate will likely start to fall off as he gains popularity. We still think at the end of the day though, he's a strong pick because of how oppressive he is as a laner. One of the most timeless occurrences in League is when a jungler ganks Heimer and then gets a double kill. Heimerdinger has so much power in lane because of his ability to consistently poke his opponents and push the wave. Winning all-ins versus Heimer is extremely difficult because of his turrets, meaning that he'll have lane priority and the opportunity to poke his opponents before ganks come his way. For our extra picks this patch, make sure not to write off Kled, Fiora, and Kayle as they're still excellent picks who can hard carry their games. Okay, and now here's a recap of our builds in the top lane. Next up, let's delve into the jungle. Kicking off the jungle, we have Echo. Echo might actually be one of the strongest junglers this patch, so make sure to pick him up if you haven't already. This guy is so strong because of his fast clear, decent ganks, and ridiculous scaling. Honestly, it's the same thing as mid lane Echo, but with less restrictions. A lot of people can bully out Echo since he's a melee champion stuck in a lane dominated by ranged ones. As a jungler, however, his greatest adversary is instead our favorite chickens adjacent to the mid lane. He's a kid with a lot of potential, and maybe you could argue that he's running away from his problems, but we'll go ahead and call it a tactical retreat. The main point is that he's good. really, really good. Unlike many other assassin junglers, Echo has a get-out-of-jail-free card. He's essentially able to do similar things as champions like Kha'Zix and Rengar, trading some engage range for a lot of safety. So many players, especially high elo ones, are abusing Echo because of this mechanic. In the mid to late game, you can jump in, try to assassinate an enemy, and then immediately ult out. Regardless of if you think you can kill your target or not, you can usually get at least summoner spells or a decent chunk out of them. From there, the team fights are essentially 5v4. What this also means is that if you get fed and your opponents try to dump everything onto you, there's a high chance of failure on their end. If they're unsuccessful in bursting you down, you can either use your ult or activate Zhonya's to buy some time and force your enemies to waste crucial abilities. We mentioned Mundo in our last episode, but now he is back. Although we could have put him in our extra pick section, we really want to emphasize how OP this guy is right now. He's tanky, he's hard to peel, and deals so much damage. Players of all elos can reap the benefits of Dr. Mundo, especially if you're gold or lower. We really suggest for you guys gold or lower that you start playing Mundo because of how simple yet effective he is. While he may not look fun, he actually is. It's kind of satisfying in an odd way to be able to run at your opponents, tank 10 tower shots, and then still kill them. Due to the short cooldown on his cleaver, you can also threaten kills onto the enemy jungler if you ever find them in the river. Mundo can constantly slow down his opponent, chase them, and also beat them in a head-on fight because of his ultimate. Our final jungle pick this time around is going to be Shaco. Our favorite clown is done clowning around. While he's received some nerfs here and there, he's also gotten some massive buffs to rebalance him. Part of the changes entail his W now hitting multiple targets. Shaco players are ecstatic over this, and he's now able to effectively clear the Raptor and Krug camps much more effectively. One of the most significant results of this is that Tiamat is now an optional buy on him. It might still be necessary to pick it up though, so if you don't have to max your W, but it'll come down to player preference. The reason Shaco is so powerful is that counterplaying him is so incredibly difficult. His stealth allows him to cover a sizable distance to reach his targets and proceed to one-shot them. In the early game, he's basically the clown from your nightmares. Shaco's ganks are some of the hardest to avoid because of how creative he can be with his routes. Like we've mentioned a lot in our videos, pick making is one of the most effective strategies to carry your games. Shaco is the king of picks, so building a bunch of damage and playing to his strength will definitely let you hard carry your games. For you non-junglers, you probably want to ban him. Just trust us on this one. Our extra picks in the jungle are going to be Elise and Vi. And also, here's a recap of our jungle builds. Okay, let's move on to the mid lane. Our first pick is definitely a familiar face, and that's going to be Fizz. Patch after patch passes, and some things don't change. Fizz winning his games is one of them. In games where he pulls ahead, Fizz does way too much damage for how safe he is. He's able to one-shot many carries even if he misses his ultimate, but landing it is basically a surefire way to pick up a kill. Anytime his opponents have to walk into the fog of war, he has an easy opportunity to land his ultimate. After jumping into fights, Fizz is able to use his E and or Zhonya's to buy time and escape otherwise certain death. Since he's able to one-shot his targets, escape, and then look for a second opportunity, it's no surprise that he's such a strong pick in the mid lane. In terms of matchups, he's able to abuse squishier mages with his insane all-in. Versus AD champions, he can build an early cloth armor or Seeker's Arms Guard, since they are essentially part of his kit regardless. His laning is usually pretty solid as long as you're able to place some wards down and use your E aggressively. Fizz is one of the best champions at taking leads and taking over games with them, so we highly suggest you pick or ban him. Lissandra received some major buffs this patch, and our analysts believe she's going to pop off on the Rift. Both Lissandra's passive and W are receiving a 20% increase in their AP ratios. This is a huge buff to her team fighting and shouldn't be written off. Similarly to picks like Malzahar and Malphite, Lissandra carries with her utility, supplemented by her decent damage. What makes Lissandra a great solo queue pick is her point-and-click CC, straightforward playstyle, and insane roaming ability. She's a great champion to engage with, and that also means that she's an excellent pick maker. If you can start off fights with a pick or a catch, that's exactly what you want to do. Her passive creates ice-born clones of her fallen opponents that will explode after a short delay. This makes her team fighting especially strong because of how much zone control her passive provides. Her AoE damage is ridiculously strong as well, so these buffs are definitely going to have a huge impact on her win rate. For our extra picks in the mid lane, check out our friends from the Void, Malzahar, and Kassadin. Alright, here are the builds one more time, and now let's run it down bot lane. Like last patch, Caitlyn is still killing it on the Rift, and for good reason too. We'll reiterate that she's always at least an okay pick and never a bad one. In most cases, she's a good pick though. This is because she has so many strengths with very few weaknesses. Caitlyn is a strong seizure, a lane bully, she's safe, and she is a very powerful late game. While she's not usually seen as such, don't underestimate her damage, especially because of her headshot. Most of you probably know this, but just in case you don't, make sure to take advantage of Caitlyn's ability to push the wave. Your goal is to consistently shove that wave and either poke your enemies while they farm or go in for that juicy turret plating. By doing this alone, you can realistically take the turret by yourself or at least draw some enemy jungle pressure to stop you. On the flip side of things, Ashe is arguably the strongest bot laner in the game right now. At the very least, statistics would convey this because there aren't many marksmen who have a positive win rate versus her. This doesn't mean that she necessarily beats all of them in lane, but she definitely has tools to make it seem that way. We've always mentioned Ashe in our counter pick videos because of her ability to set up ganks, and now that she's a bit stronger and much more popular, players are really taking advantage of this. In winning matchups, they play aggressively and win their lane in isolation, and when in losing ones, they can play patiently and set up ganks when teammates are nearby. When playing Ashe, you can get the best of both worlds. Speaking of which, she's seeing some plays at Worlds, so she's definitely got some value in the eyes of pro players as well. Our extra picks for bot lane this patch are Jinx and Jhin. Once again, here are our builds to recap. Okay, let's wrap it up with support. First up is, once again, Blitzcrank. Even though he's received some nerfs this patch, they're really not a big deal. Blitzcrank is one of the hardest carry champions in the game right now. He can literally win games with a single ability, and his stats from last patch really show you how powerful he can be. As long as you can land the majority of your hooks, you can honestly carry any game when playing him. Blitzcrank does well into basically any range support because of how much kill pressure he exerts, and because he's tanky enough to survive an all-in. It's not like he does terrible versus melee ones either, it's all playable for Blitzcrank. Aside from this, he's a great pick maker and roamer, allowing him to pressure the map outside of the bot lane as early as level 1 with an invade. Our final pick for the video is going to be Swain. While he was initially slept on and part of our sleeper pick series, Swain support is now pretty mainstream. If you watched our videos when we first mentioned him, go ahead and say it because you earned it. You played Swain support before it was cool. His win rate has risen above 50% and he's also a decently popular pick. What makes Swain so strong is how much damage he does with so few items. In the laning phase, he has so much kill pressure at pretty much all levels after 2. At level 6 though, it's basically impossible to beat him in a head-on fight. You have to either kill Swain before he pops off, or try to poke him out. In either case, it's pretty risky. That's definitely a good thing from Swain's perspective, especially if your team is lacking damage, or if your teammates locked in a bunch of physical damage champions, make sure to pick up Swain to hard carry your games. Our extra support picks are going to be Nautilus and Pyke. Here are the builds for support as well. That concludes this episode of OP Pick or Ban. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, then click that sub button. Or if you guys want to get better at League of Legends this season, then check out ProGuides.com using the description link below, where we've teamed up with pro players to create guides designed to take your game to the next level. Also, keep an eye on our YouTube channel. We're constantly updating it with new content just like this. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and we'll see you on the Rift.